Hi, I'm Christine Churchill, President of Key Relevance, a search marketing company based in Dallas, Texas. This session is about keyword research and SEO copywriting. Bad keyword choices can really cost you money. This is something that a lot of folks do not understand, but if you want more traffic, more conversions, and higher performing online marketing, go back to the basics, go back to your keyword research. It truly makes a huge difference. Well, I'm Christine Churchill. I'm president of Key Relevance. We are a search marketing company based in Dallas, Texas. But today I'm going to be talking about keyword research and SEO copywriting. Now, just to get an idea of the audience background, how many of you are SEOs? Okay, I see a number of hands. How many of you are pay-per-click? Okay, I see a couple of hands. How many of you are like social media experts and are learning about social media? Okay. So it looks like quite a variety of folks in the audience. The neat thing is I'm going to touch on things that are going to be meaningful to all three of you guys, or in fact, everything you do online. This is just a real brief overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to help you define in your mind what keyword research is, why you should pay attention to it and put resources toward it, because it's going to make a huge difference in your success online. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to actually conduct a keyword research process. I'm going to talk about some tools, some keyword tools. I'm going to talk about some methodologies to do and some techniques you can use to get some keywords from other sources other than just keyword tools as well. And then finally, I'm going to be talking about a little bit what you do with those keywords after you've made your keyword lists and you've got this huge compiled list and what to do with it. You've probably heard this before, but keyword research really is the starting point for anything you do online. It's the fundamental step you do, because it doesn't matter how good a job you do on SEO and the techniques you use. If you're using the wrong phrases when you optimize your keywords on the page, and it could be for a web page, it could be for a press release, it could be for a video, it doesn't matter. If you pick the wrong phrases, you're not going to have people coming to your site. It's not going to turn into a traffic generator. So you've got to pick those correct keywords. So keyword research is a very important element in anything you do online, from pay-per-click to SEO. It's how people find you. Now, why is that? Well, if you go back to how the search engines work, they basically take query strings, they take text strings, they classify different pages, different videos, whatever it is, based on what the search engine can read. Now, search engines can only read text. They can't see these pretty pictures you've got on your page. So it all goes back to a query string. And from your perspective, if you can make your pages all about certain query phrase, search terms, and those are the terms that people are actually putting into a search box, your online marketing is going to be vastly improved. It's going to be great. You're going to be able to connect with your customer base. One of the biggest reasons you do keyword research is to find new keyword opportunities, these overlooked keywords, these little gems that you may think you know all the keywords, but when you start doing keyword research, there's going to be words and phrases that you just didn't think of. I mean, that's human nature. So those overlooked keywords are going to be exposed to you through your keyword research. It also gives you an advantage, taking advantage of those longer tail phrases. And I'm going to talk a little bit about longer tail in a minute, but I figured out one of the biggest reasons I was into keyword research from a very early time was I found out that this was probably back in like 1999. I had optimized some pages for our website. I was with an internet startup called Net Mechanic at the time, and I was the SEO. We didn't call them back then. Search engine optimization was just sort of a coming art back around that time. But I had optimized some pages for some of our geeky internal speak that we used in-house, and I was ranking #1 on all these terms, and I started looking at my analytics and my logs and realized I wasn't getting any traffic. So I went down, I sat down with our sales manager. He started telling me, and I showed him the list of words I was targeting on my SEO, and he started laughing at me. I mean, literally. Now, this is before we had a lot of these keyword tools that we have now, so I had to kind of go by guess back then. And I talked to him for a while. I extracted some information about how he talked to our customer base, and he actually had modified his speech patterns to use the terms that he would hear people on the phone when they would call in. So I changed my optimization based on his phraseology, and it was remarkable. Suddenly our traffic just started soaring. So it was kind of an early lesson for me, but it was like we had been missing traffic and missing sales because of bad keyword optimization. I mentioned that everything you do online goes back to the keywords. So a lot of people think that just because they're working on a website, they only have to worry about the SEO, but they might be doing some paid advertising. Obviously, if you're doing paid advertising, you have to pick keywords. But people sort of get blinded. They forget that their images need to be optimized with keywords. They forget their podcasts or their videos need to be done with keywords. Same with their press releases. You can get a lot better lift on a press release if you optimize it with the right keywords. Same with your blog posts. Any kind of content you develop for the web should be optimized. We'll talk a little bit about query length. This has been an evolving thing. The more and more longer-term phrases are becoming more popular. Just between December and January, the longer search queries, and what I'm talking about are words that are phrases that contain 5 to 8 words in it. It's up 5% from December 2010. This is based on some Hitwise data, which pulls the data from ISP data, and they've got a huge database of information. These slides will be up later, so you can look at this in more detail, but you can see that the number of keywords, 3 or more, has actually increased quite a bit in the last couple of years. This is a slide showing some information from a survey that was done by Marketing Sherpa a few years ago, and it's just talking about where marketers get keyword information. And you can see that in their survey they showed that site logs was the number one area that people would look at. How many folks are currently using their analytics or their site logs for keyword research? A few, very good. The internal site search was also pretty popular. Competitor sites was number 4 in the list. And then competitive intelligence and the keyword tools was way down at 15%, which I thought was surprisingly low. I mentioned long tail a moment ago. The term long tail is based on a phrase that Chris Anderson, who was the editor of Wired magazine, wrote. He wrote a book about the long tail. And basically what it describes is a new economic model where you can have unlimited selection. It's a model that Amazon, iTunes, and several other companies use online. And basically it's the idea that you've got a frequency curve, or frequency graph, where on the left side you've got very, very popular phrases, and as the graph goes off to the right into infinity, you get less popular phrases and lower competitive phrases. So the idea is those long tails are your opportunity terms. So here's an example showing just some keywords. A head term might be 1 or 2 word phrase, and then as you go down to your tail phrases, you might have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. Now, keyword research is an iterative process, and for some reason I run into people and they say, well, I did my keyword research, and I'll say, well, when did you do it? And they'll say, oh, a year or 2 ago. And I said, have you updated it? And they'll say no. So something to take home to your boss so you can justify your time and the resources is you really need to be doing keyword research on a regular basis. You're never finished with it. Words come into language with incredible frequency. I mean, especially with the social media coming on, you can find a lot of good new terms through the social media, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But these are basically the 3 phases of keyword research. You've got brainstorming up front, you've got keyword expansion where you take some of the phrases you have found through your brainstorming session and then you expand that list, and then finally you evaluate those keywords based on different criteria, and I'll talk about that in a minute. All right, let's talk about the brainstorming phase. Now this first little session here, the first part here, this little bit here, I'm going to talk about ways of getting keyword information outside of the tools, and then I'm going to talk about the tools. I like to include this because a lot of times these alternate ways are ways you can get information of very, very current keyword information. I always start with a brainstorming session when I'm doing keyword research. A lot of times you know the keywords that are your money words, and that's great. So you sit down, pull some of your key people in a room, pick their brains, find out what keywords that you currently know about. In that stage, you shouldn't have any kind of judgment. It should be kind of an open forum where none of the keywords are really, put aside. You may find later on that a related keyword to that is very, very effective, so you don't want to throw any words out. So basically, you're going to try and find keywords from within your company. There's a number of ways to do this. You can look at the existing website. You can look at the print collateral. You can look at press releases that company has done. Now, the one caution I will give you is you have to be careful of insider jargon. And that's that internal speak that we do, that we speak to each other in our companies, that we think everybody knows. But when you talk to your next door neighbor, they don't have the slightest idea what you're talking about. So be careful of the insider jargon problem. The big thing you want to try to get is inside the mindset of the customer and find those words that they are actually using to describe your products. Now, in my case, a lot of times I like to talk to the people that are talking to the customers. That can be the salespeople, that can be your tech support. I find the tech support people to be very valuable if you can get to them, to try to find out how the customers are describing the products. That is some keen insight if you can do that. Another thing you can do is go out on the forums, look for your product names, look for your company names, and see how people are discussing them and what terms they describe it. You may find that your very popular product is being called something entirely different. There may be a nickname that you're not aware of, but if you knew about it, you could capitalize on it. Believe it or not, the online and the traditional print magazines are also a good source. Product reviews. I remember working with a company one time. They came in to our agency and they had they had some of the worst copy on their website I'd ever seen. Everything was, it must have been written by a doctorate or something, because everything was in 6-syllable words, it seemed like. And I read through that. I could not make heads or tails out of what they were talking about. I read it about 3 times. And I finally went into the search engine and I put the company name. I found a product review by a layman journalist who had written about the company, and they had used completely different phraseology. And I totally understood what he was talking about. So the words that he was using to describe the company was very helpful. So if you ever run into a situation like that, look around and see what other people have done to interpret what the product is and description of it. Of course, there's always the online thesaurus that can help. Looking at your competitors, that's always a real handy place to get some keyword information. Just be very careful. They may not know what they're doing. They may have very deep pockets. They may be buying everything in the world on pay-per-click. That doesn't mean it's right. It's just a way for you to get some insight for possibly overlooked keywords, or just to kind of get some intelligence on what they're doing. I'm a big fan of looking at your analytics, your log files for keywords. This is nice because a lot of times you can find out performance information. And one thing you need to remember when you're doing the log analysis for keywords is these are currently working phrases. So it's kind of like a catch-22. You're getting traffic on that phrase because you may already be ranking or buying that keyword in pay-per-click. So it's not an end-all, but it is a good place for a good keyword information. And a lot of times you can go through your analytics and discover terms that you didn't even know were in there. One thing, if you're doing your analytics, to do is make sure you get the biggest list possible. So a lot of times it might default to 25 or 10 or something like that. Get as many of the keywords in the list as you can do it. The other thing you can do is do excluding and use your filters. So if you've got Google Analytics, down at the bottom of Google Analytics, you can put exclude certain terms, and that can give you some information. The other thing you can do is filter by a root phrase, and it can show you all the different variations of that particular root phrase, which is very helpful. I love site search information. How many people have site search on their websites right now? Okay. This is a direct feed from the customer. And obviously, some websites aren't going to be appropriate for having a site search, but if you could put it on there, it's really nice. It gives you some really interesting data. You may not even know that your customer base is looking for certain products that you haven't offered in the past, but that are very related to existing products. So you may want to actually expand your product line because of some of the information you get from your site search. Something else is that you may see that they're searching for certain phrases to describing your product, so it can give you some insight there. Here's an example of site search on a blog. Now, a lot of people don't realize that Google Analytics now allows you to tie in, if you're using Google Site Search, you can actually tie it directly into your Google Analytics just very easily. And then down under the content section on your Analytics' navigation, you can actually pull up the terms that people are using. In the past, what I've seen people do is they might have a great site search, but they have to go to a flat file or some other database to pull the keyword information, so then you're never using it. By doing it, by tying it directly into the Google Analytics or your other analytics, usually there's a way to do that. It gives you an easy way to actually mine that data and take advantage of it. So you'll actually do the research. All right, now we're talking about the keyword tools. This is probably everybody's favorite section because they all have a pet keyword tool that they love. If you're not using keyword tools, I would definitely advise you to start using them. They can save you time, money, effort, you name it. Trying to drill through keywords is mind-boggling. Another nice thing about using keyword tools is you're actually getting data from an outside source over your own company. It's a larger sample size other than like your logs. It can help you find keywords that you missed. It can offer you some popularity numbers so you can do some comparison between the different phrases. And it can move you beyond your assumptions about certain phrases. Okay, here's a list of some of the keyword tools. This is by no means all of them. It's really the tip of the iceberg of the keyword tools. I've got them grouped kind of by free and fee-based. Everybody likes free, so that's always nice. Google has a number of keyword tools. Ad Center, Microsoft has a number of tools. There's a lot of really good paid tools as well. People ask me all the time, like, why should I go and buy a paid tool if I get some data from Google? Well, you may or may not have heard of some of the controversy that's going on with the Google keyword tool right now, but there's a lot of speculation about some of the data. My recommendation has always been, and it continues to be, use more than one keyword tool. So whereas you might want to use the Google tool or the Ad Center tool, be sure to use another tool as well. The reason for it is you want to compare the popularity numbers or the trend line of numbers of the different phrases. You want to compare them with different data sources. So you might use a Google tool and get it from Google, or you might use Hitwise or another keyword discovery where it actually pulls it from a user panel where they have a group. So these are actually queries that are being entered from their search bar. So different data sources is valuable. So that's another reason where you might want to go to a paid tool. The other thing about paid tools is they have a lot of management features inside of them. They're not usually just one tool. They're almost always exclusive or a large suite of tools. So you might get all kind of keyword management tools within a paid tool. Here's an example of the keyword tool. I'm actually going to jump out of here. There's a lot of changes in the Google keyword tool. In October 2010, Google actually launched a new version of this tool. They changed the data source. Prior to that, Google had used Google and the partner sites of Google. So you had keywords with very high volumes in some cases. After the tool, this new updated version of the tool was launched, we compared the numbers and you could see some considerable drops in the popularity and the search queries across the board. I've got an example here of the Google keyword tool. This is actually, you can get it to externally or you can get it through AdWords. It's the same tool basically. I will tell you a couple things about this tool. You're going to get different numbers of keywords if you're logged in or logged out. So if you want the most keyword information, log in. That's been a pretty dramatic change from the new tool. Obviously they changed the data source. There's been some controversy. Back in October, Google of 2010, Google actually mentioned that they were changing the keywords to be commercial intent only. And there was quite a backlash. And back in December of 2010, Google said they made some corrections. We're still seeing a little bit of oddity in some of the keyword data. So again, use more than one keyword tool until they get this finished out and fixed. I want to actually show you a live demo because there's a few things that you may not be aware of in the Google tool. Some of them are very new. If you look over on the left side, you'll notice, I'm going to point out a few things because it'll make your use of this tool a lot better. You have an include and exclude terms. This is really valuable if you've got a lot of brand terms showing up in your keyword list that just kind of clutter it up. All right, I put a very general term in here, I put pizza. I don't know, I guess I must have been hungry or something. But you'll notice that under the exclude terms, I actually have a number of brands of pizza, okay? So let's just scroll down here a little bit. Let me point out a few things as we go. There we go. You'll notice something right above the search bar here that says advanced options. That allows you to do some geographical targeting and also, let me go ahead and pull this up here. So you can see the language, it gives you some geographical targeting, and the other thing it gives you is, and this is a new thing, show ideas and statistics for, and the default is desktop or laptop computers. So you're actually getting some information different from the mobile. Now let me show you, let's do a quick comparison here. When I did this search, and I'm going to do one other change, over here on the left column, you see where it says broad? I'm going to make this exact. If you're doing your research using this tool, you should do it at the exact match. And you'll see that it jumped a little bit. The first thing you should do after you do your search is do a sort by, I like to do it in decreasing order. So I've got like the global monthly searches there, and you can just click on it and it's going to reverse it. And then I'm going to do it back again so you can see from the top, from the bottom. Across the line here, you've got some competitive things where it actually gives you an idea of how competitive a certain term is. It shows you the monthly searches that were conducted. Something else you can do is pull this column down. I like to add the estimated average CPC. It gives me some information about how, if I were to bid on that, how much that would cost for different, the different keywords across the line there. So you can see there's a lot of information. Now I'm going to go up here and you can see these terms are showing up, and there's like pizza dough recipe, pizza dough. These are kind of things that somebody at home might want. Now watch what happens to that keyword list when I go to mobile. You'll see some of the phrases are going to stay, but you're going to see now that we've changed it and you've got pizza restaurant much higher. So it's actually showing you a completely different database based on whether it's mobile or on a home computer. So if you're doing some mobile search, that might be a neat thing for you. All right, I'm going to jump back into my presentation here. But I like some of those features that they've added. I think that's been really valuable. The other thing that they show is seasonal information. And I don't know if you noticed, but at the very top here where I had entered the phrase, you can also enter a URL. Now you could put your competitor's URL, you could put a page on a website that you want to know what it's all about. Maybe you're trying to mine other keyword information, you see it ranking really well, so you want to kind of analyze it. You could put that URL into that box, and it's going to give you Google's perspective on what the phrases are. So that's kind of valuable information from a competitive intelligence as well as just data expansion. A couple other tools that Google offers is the Google Trends tool. This gives you, it monitors the trends over a long period of time. I like it because you can see here, this is a trend for a search on MySpace and Facebook. I like it because I can compare phrases. I can see what the popularity is over time on these different phrases. And you can see this red line where Facebook in 2008 started just taking off. And if you recall, that makes sense because Microsoft put money into Facebook at the end of 2007, so that made total sense to me when I saw that. Google Hot Trends, this is great if you're looking for content for your blog, that you want to have something that's really hot and viral. Google Hot Trends allows you to put a specific date in. So in this one I have February 24th. I could have picked any date in the past, but it's kind of nice. It also gives you hot topics that are current today and going on right now. So it's kind of nice if you're trying to catch up and get some ideas for blog posts, which are very viral. Google Insights, this is one of my favorite tools. This is another trending tool that Google offers. It not only gives you some trend information, but it shows you some really cool geographical information. In this case, I've got a search for bed bugs, and you can see that apparently New York is a hot spot for that term being searched because of the problem they're having up there right now. But down at the bottom of the Google Insights tool page, there's two little brackets where you've got top searches and rising searches. Great information. Google Insights can also show you seasonality of terms. So this, for instance, is a search for the term flowers. And you can see that there's two spikes over every year consistently. You know, I think everybody knows what that is, Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. That's what apparently the only gift we give our mothers. Another tool a lot of people may not have used yet is the Google Contextual Targeting Tool. Anybody use that for keyword research? A few of you? I love this tool. Really good for coming up with theme keyword lists. So it's within your AdWords account, but basically it's just in one of the tools that they offer for free. You can put a term in there. I put the term woodworking, and it basically gave me, some suggested groups. Now you could use this for ad groups. Obviously, that's what they kind of want you to do for your targeting things. But the neat thing is, it gives you these subsets of phrases that are related to that term that you could use for your. You could easily use it for organic as well. It also gives you some ideas for organizing your data. You can see Google's suggestion to that term. So that's kind of a nice little way of getting some ideas on how to structure your keyword lists. The Google Webmaster Tools, this is valuable because it sort of tells you what Google thinks your site is all about. It tells you your top search queries. Keyword Discovery is a paid tool by Trillion. It has database from users, a user toolbar, so it's actually query data. You don't have to worry about any inflation on the terms due to like a robot. Some of the terms that, or some of the tools that use ISP data, for instance, has some inflation number going on because of the spiders or the robots that people use to check ranking, for instance, inflate especially some of the competitive terms. I've seen them just outrageously high. But Keyword Discovery has a number of different databases, provides seasonal information. Now, one thing you may not have thought about when using this tool, it actually has a keyword density tool. I'm not real big on keyword density, but I do like to know that I've used the tool in appropriate places on a page. So you could actually put your URL in and see how many times and if it was used in good places on the web. Word Tracker, how many folks use Word Tracker? Number? Okay. It's been around a long time. It's kind of the grandfather of the keyword tools. It pulls data from a meta search engine. So again, you don't have skewing issues like you do on tools that are using ISP type data. WordStream, another tool, is a fairly new tool. They have actually built out quite a few related tools within their tool set, including a niche finder. They've got pay-per-click tools, SEO tools. So if you haven't explored them, definitely check them out. Google Instant, yes, Google Instant is actually a keyword tool if you look at it in the right light. I think you're all familiar with what Google did, is you start to type a phrase into Google. You'll notice that you get some results showing at the bottom of the page, but you also get some keyword suggestions there at the top. How many of you know that Google Instant also shows you phrases for shopping search? So, not to nobody, okay? If you're doing some e-commerce, you might actually go to the shopping engine that Google has, and they've actually got keyword suggestions on just like in Google Instant, on the regular web search, they've got it for product search as well. So that might be an area that you might want to look at, because it's a different, you'll get different suggestions than you will on the web search. Twitter search, this is ideal for coming up with real-time information and current information about your products and what people are calling it and just what's going on the web. I know I've been on trips overseas or something, I come back and I want to know what's going on the internet. I always go to Google Trend or the Twitter trends, and you can find out exactly what people are talking about in the world. A lot of people don't realize that you can change the location of the data where Twitter is having the discussions. So in this case, I set it to the United States, but I could easily set it to San Jose or whatever, and that would give me some information about what people in that specific geographical area are talking about. YouTube, if you're doing videos, you really ought to take a look at the two tools that YouTube offers for keyword research. And that first one is the suggest. As you start typing in a phrase at YouTube, it'll actually give you some suggestions related to that phrase. And the other thing is, because they are now doing promoted videos, they actually have a keyword tool that uses a different database from the regular standard Google tool. This is data from YouTube that they're using in here. It's structured very similar to the Google tool, but the database is different. If you're coming up with a long list of keywords that are related, Google Sets is a nice little tool to expand that list. You can start like typing in some of the words that are in your list, and it'll actually come back with some predicted results that are related to your list. Anybody use the Google Wonder tool, the Wonder Wheel? A few people? This is kind of nice just to get some visual representation of search term relationships. It's great for brainstorming. I use it a lot just to get some keyword ideas, and I usually use this tool in the early stage of my keyword research just to get me some ideas. Now the neat thing about this, you can click on any of these and you can go a step deeper, so you can actually mine through the data quite deep and get down quite a ways from your original query, but you can get some really good keyword relationships. The Ad Center Lab tools, there's quite a few of them. It's a suite of keyword intelligence type tools. Possibly my favorite of their tools is the search funnels, just because it gives me a little insight into the mind of the user if they were doing a search. I can find out what term was done, what search term was done before the user did that search and after. So that's some valuable information. Microsoft also has the Ad Intelligence tool, which is a plugin for Excel. Anybody using that one? A few people? Okay. It's a free tool from Microsoft that provides keyword information. So if you haven't actually experimented with this tool, because it is free, I would really advise you to do it because it gives you some interesting perspective on keywords different from the Google tools. Yahoo trending information. I love trending information for hot information for blog posts or articles. It's just nice current type information. I mentioned that Google gives you some keyword suggestions. The other search engines do as well. Here's the Yahoo suggestions. Here's Asks. Now, one thing I like about what Ask does, and some of the other engines as well, it's not exclusive to Ask, but on the right side, you'll notice that they give related searches. Now, Google does that as well, so you can get some of that information there. But it's a different perspective from Google, so this is nice. Remember I said data sources are important. The many is different you can get broader perspective on your keywords. The other thing I really like what Ask has done is at the right bottom, you'll notice they actually have some tools that are some questions, related questions to your phrase. That can be really valuable if you're coming up with facts or content pages and you want to address what people are actually asking. Quintura, anybody use Quintura? Nobody? This is a visual search engine. Again, it just shows sort of relationships, usually used at the brainstorming phase of keyword research. Aaron Wall has a book, the SEO book keyword tool. He basically has pulled different data sources. Keyword clouds, this is kind of valuable if you just want to see what different sites are about. All right, let me jump into the keyword expansion phase because this is kind of an interesting area. This is where you take that list that you developed in, can we wait to the questions on the end there? Variations of your keywords and expand that list that you have. So some of the ways you can expand that list is comparisons. the price, product descriptions, intended use, things like that. So these are different ways that you can expand the keyword list. Now, after you've expanded those keywords lists, inside the keyword research process, we have something we call keyword buckets, and this is just like groups of keywords that are kind of related. And this helps you kind of organize your keywords. We call them keyword buckets. So you might have a series of these keyword buckets. The other thing to remember is you don't do one keyword research. You do it all the time, and you do it for different pages. If you have different pages on your site that are dramatically different, you're going to be doing a series of keyword research sessions. The permutations, this is where you take different phrases. You might have a core phrase, and you might match it with different adjectives. There's a couple of ways to do that really quickly. You can use Excel. Again, SEO Book has put a little keyword permutation tool together where you can put some keywords in a list, and then you can get it'll actually match up the tools, or match up the phrases. Excel, you can do the same thing. There is a function in Excel called concatenate, and you can basically like put query strings together very quickly. So you can take a small list and expand it to be quite enormous in very short order. All right, I'm going to talk about evaluating these keyword lists, because this is something, people get these huge keyword lists and they don't know what to do with them. First thing you do is divide them into the buckets that I mentioned, but then you're going to have to do a sanity check. The worst thing you can do is take a list of keywords from the keyword tool, from a keyword tool that you've been using, and just dump it into your PPC or your SEO. That makes no sense at all, and what you're going to find is you're going to have a lot of wastage there. Some of those phrases are not going to be relevant. So we're going to go through some of this what I call selection criteria on the keywords. I'm going to go through each one of these, so let me jump to the relevancy. This is paramount. This is the number one thing. The keyword has to be relevant. If you're going to use it in your SEO, your campaigns for pay-per-click, it absolutely must be relevant to what you're selling or your product. It must make sense. Popularity. Popularity basically is a measure of traffic potential. So when you look at the query numbers on a search tool, that just tells you what, in best case circumstances, the traffic you might be getting. The problem with really popular phrases is they tend to be very competitive. They may not be as relevant, and they may not work as well for you. A longer tail phrase might be a lot more focused, more competitive, actually have better converting. In most cases, the longer tails convert pretty well. The other thing you need to consider on the popularity, you're taking a snapshot on the popularity where actually the term might have some seasonality to it. So remember to look at the seasonality of it. User intent. This is getting inside the mind of the user. You want to understand the why behind they put that in there, that particular search phrase in the query box, and what they were really wanting. For instance, if a searcher goes out there and they put in the word car reviews, they're probably in an early phase in the buying process. They're trying to gather information. They're researching things. If they type in fast auto financing, they probably want to buy that car right now. I mean, you can see that it's in a different mindset. So you want to match that particular term, like on your landing page. I would have completely different landing pages for these two terms if I was doing a pay-per-click campaign for them. Same with your SEO. You want to match the user intent and give them what they're looking for. A lot of people don't, because we work in search and e-commerce so much, we kind of get a mindset that all the searches on the web are commercial. And actually, 80% of the phrases that have been out there that are done on the web, it's been estimated that they're non-commercial. They're actually information-type searches. So as you're looking at keywords from a user intent perspective, try to kind of categorize your keywords into a buying process. Now that I'm showing a linear process, this is the traditional one that Philip Cotter and all the other marketing experts have put out there. But in search, you'll find that it's a very zigzag back and forth when they're doing keyword research. But you can still kind of lump keywords into a phase in the buying process. So that's another way you can look at your keywords. The other thing is to think about the intent of the user by trying to classify the kind of phrase it is. There are basically 3 types of searches done on the web. There's the navigational, informational, and transactional. Navigational is when you type in like AA.com. You actually want to go to American Airlines and you know exactly where you're going. Informational type phrases are like you're asking a question. So, do hybrid cars require special maintenance? Something like that. And then transactional are the ones that we think about the most, the commercial ones, where you actually want to buy something. So you might have the term like purchase, download, something like that, where it's an interactive type of term where they want information or want to buy something. Now, another way to evaluate keywords is by competition. Now, the first thing you have to do is find out who your competitors are. So you type your phrase into the query box and you see who's currently ranking. But you also want to look at who is buying pay-per-click ads. In SEO, there's a term we call search term parity, where whoever is ranking, if you want to beat them, you have to do at least that amount of optimization or link building to be able to beat them. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing you want to do is look at the competitors' SEO. You want to see if they've used the keywords in the appropriate places on page optimization, and then also look at their linkage information. You can do an all-in anchor, an all-in title, and kind of look where if they rank on that for certain phrases. Look at their anchor text that they're using, and you can kind of get an idea about how competitive they are. If you don't have a background in SEO, I'd recommend, if you're actually doing keyword research for assigning keywords to pages, I'd actually recommend you talk to an SEO and pull them in and have them evaluate it, because it's a somewhat of a subjective analysis. You need somebody that's a little bit seasoned to be able to pick and be able to tell you if the site is well optimized. Here's some tools that we can use for competitive intelligence. There's a lot of competitive intelligence tools. I love competitive intelligence tools. They're kind of fun to look at and analyze what your competitors are doing. Hitwise is a pretty well-known one. Anybody in here use Hitwise? A few people? Yeah. It does pull data from ISPs, but it has such a huge data source that it's really incredible information. They also have a really nice GUI interface, so it makes it kind of nice. They are rather expensive, but it's good information. You can put a phrase in, and you can see who's getting traffic on it. You could put a website in and find out where their money terms are, things like that. So Hitwise is a valuable insight. ComScore, again, this is a real high granular information. ComScore pulls its data from user panels. They've got actually a toolbar where they've got like 2 million people that use their little toolbar, and it pulls information. So it's extremely granular, accurate information. Trillion has a competitive intelligence tool. And there's a number of tools here. In fact, I've got some snapshots. Here's one of Hitwise's tools. This is the search gap tool, where you can compare 2 URLs, and it'll tell you where they're getting their traffic on and where they're not. The marketer tool by ComScore. Again, this is really nice if you're trying to get really specific information. The Trillion intelligence tool, the competitive intelligence tool. This one is relatively inexpensive compared to Hitwise and the ComScore tool. Gives you a lot of insight into competitiveness of certain phrases and certain sites. Anybody use the SEO Moz keyword difficulty tool? This is a nice, quick and dirty little tool to come up with a relative yardstick of a keyword and how competitive it is. It gives you really quick information. Now, one of the things I like about this particular tool is it also gives me some information about the URLs that are currently ranking, and it gives me kind of a metric on the URL and domain, so I can get an idea of just what I'm up against if I'm trying to win that term. SEMrush, anybody use that? A few hands, good. This is another competitive intelligence tool, nice to use. It gives you some information. You can do it by keyword or URL, so nice. AdGuru, another competitive intelligence tool. I'm going to go through these kind of quick. SpyFu, nice tool for competitive intelligence. On SpyFu, you can put either a keyword or a domain name. So that's nice to find out what your competitors are doing. All right, evaluating keywords by performance. I am a big advocate of testing your keywords before you go through all the work of optimizing everything under the sun on your website. The easiest way to do that is doing a pay-per-click campaign. So you could very quickly do just a little keyword tool, or some ads out there using some of those keywords that you are testing and get some information. Be sure to look at your analytics. I mean, people surprise me sometimes. They'll do all the work and they won't look at their analytics. So look how that keyword's performing. Now, I will mention something that I have seen people do in the past. They'll say, oh, that keyword doesn't work. And I'll say, well, let me take a look at your analytics and let me look what you had as your ad and your landing page. And I'll find that it's really not the keyword that wasn't working. It was their landing page or just a really bad ad. So make sure that you're not penalizing a keyword because of a bad landing page. Don't just assume it's the keyword's fault. So look at that. You want a clean thing. If you're doing offline, anybody doing offline conversions where they have a phone number? Anybody doing tracking on that? Great. I see a lot of people that have phone numbers on their websites and they're not tracking offline. There's a number of tools that can pull that. But if you're buying pay-per-click and you've got a phone number on there, you really need to be doing offline conversion tracking. All right, we're going to talk about what you do with some of the data. All right. I mentioned that keyword research is involved with everything you do on the web. So this is going to be where you're going to do the application of the information that you developed in your keyword research and what you're going to do with it. SEO copywriting is really a balancing act. It takes a while to get good at it because you basically have two customers you're trying to please, the search engine and the user. And if you do either badly, your page isn't going to work or be as effective. It's really a talent, and it takes a while to develop that talent. I always tell people that it's the talent when you hire an SEO company. It's their experience and their know-how, how to do copywriting gracefully and well, as opposed to doing plastered keyword stuffing of articles or pages where it sounds very stilted and ugly. So there's quite an art form to that. Natural, okay. It has to sound natural. I always tell people, read your text and your copy out loud. Make sure it doesn't sound stilted. It's real easy to accidentally put too many phrases in, they're repetitive, and it sounds stuffed when you read it out loud. It's like your ear, bringing in that other sense helps you identify that. Here's a couple guidelines. Think about keyword phrases not as a single keyword. Think of it as a phrase. Most companies are not going to be able to be competitive enough to go after a single term. And if you're Disney, yeah, you can go after the term movies, but most websites do better if they go after a search term that's a little bit longer phrase, better converting. Now, when you're doing your keyword research, what I like to do is take an Excel spreadsheet, and I'll actually list the pages, and then over on the right, another right column, I'll actually have the phrases that I'm targeting on those individual pages. So it's not just this massive keyword research, you're actually kind of doing a mapping to the pages of what terms go on which page. Now, when you actually get into the optimization, there's a number of places there where you want to actually use them on the page. This is an example of if you went to your browser and you said view source. This happens to be Jacob Nielsen's website. You can actually see, and I know you can't see it in the back, so I'm going to describe this, but there's certain phrases where you might want to use your keywords. And this list is some of them. Obviously, your title tags. This is, without a doubt, the most important on-page criteria or tag for the ranking algorithm to look at. So if you use your keywords in that title tag, you've done yourself a huge favor. The meta description, this is nice because it actually shows up many times on the search results pages. So make it sound good, make it have good marketing. It's a very valuable tag, actually. People kind of overlook that one. Your H tags, these are like your H1s, H2s. Those are good because it shows prominence. Visible portion of your page. This is the actual text. And don't embed it in a graphic. I've seen so many sites come back and they'll actually have great copy, but because of style reasons, they'll embed it in a graphic. And If you don't have to do that, don't. I know some of the bigger companies are really picky about style, but you're actually hurting your web page from an SEO perspective by doing that. The alt attribute, this is something you can put with images that has a description. It was for accessibility reasons originally, but it's a valuable way to tell the engines what that picture is about. And you should use it accurately, don't just stuff keywords in there. Other places to use keywords are links, your anchor text, file names, URLs, things like that. Here's an example of a search results page. You can see this is for a search for Achilles tendon. I hurt my Achilles tendon last year and was in a cast for several months. And so I was doing a lot of research on Achilles tendon issues. And this just happens to be one I did a while back. And you can see where the Achilles tendon is in the headline there. That's actually from the title. And then the little thing that says description of Achilles tendon, blah, blah, blah. That's actually from the meta description tag. This is actually the code from that page that was ranking. So you can see the title is the same as the one that was showing on the SERPs. I'll bounce back so you can see it. Same as the title that was showing up in the top line there. And then where it says description, there it is. It's coming directly from the meta description tag. So you can see where that's very valuable. Title tags. I spend a lot of time developing the title tags. You don't want them too long. I usually like short titles, under 120 characters if you can get it. I like to put my keywords that are the most important early in the title. It's got a lot of heavy rank or weight in the algorithm, so you really want to take your time looking at the title tag. Take the extra time to have a good title. Meta description, this should be a summary of what's on the page, but think about it with your marketing hat on, because a nice summary will invite people to actually click. I've actually seen click-through rates go up with good meta descriptions. Images. Don't forget that your images can also be optimized. This is actually a really great way to get a lot of traffic, especially for blog sites where you might have some original images on your site. You can actually optimize them for keywords, the file name, the alt descriptions, things like that. Here's some other on-page SEO uses. I mentioned some of these, but the point I want to make here is don't overdo it. Don't keyword stuff every single thing. You might over-optimize that, which could work against you as well, but it's a balancing act. You don't want it to sound too stuffed or too overdone. Homepage is usually your strongest page on your website, and this is because that's where the majority of links are developed. I've seen a few sites where an internal page is stronger, but that's really the exception. Because it's the strongest page, normally you can put your more competitive phrases on that page, so that's always good to know. If you're working on your homepage and you're coming up with a lot of keywords, try not to put every single keyword that's relevant on it, because you'll just dilute all of your keywords. So try to think about it as a laser beam. Try to think about just maybe 2 or 3. And the actual number you can target is all based on how competitive your website is and the industry niche and how competitive it is. So there's no golden right answer on how many keywords you can target per page. It varies. Your internal pages. I mentioned about how I made a spreadsheet and I would assign different keywords. It's really a process of dividing and conquering. Each page, Danny likes to call it, or say that each page should sing a song. And that's something I keep in my mind when I'm optimizing, is that page should be all about that. It's very much a matter of focus. A couple of golden rules about SEO copywriting. What really works is talking about the benefits. So, don't tell them that, whatever your product is, all the features, the technical features, you can include that information, but on the main page for that product, talk about the benefits. Does it save someone time? Does it save them money? Talk about how it's going to benefit their life, because this goes back to some basic marketing. But that's really important. The other thing to do is appeal to emotions. Whether we admit it or not, people buy based on an emotional response to a product. If something makes them feel good, they'll buy it. So try to get that emotional response. If it's something that soothes peace of, or provides peace of mind, you don't play that out. So think about that when you're coming up with your marketing copy. All right, let me just summarize real quick some of the main points. Don't make the mistake of picking a single phrase or a single word when you're going after your keywords, especially when you're trying to pick that keyword for the homepage. A longer phrase, like I said, a lot of times those are the converting phrases, the converting words, so go after that. And don't get wrapped up about picking popular phrases all the time. I've seen so many cases where people will pick the most popular phrase and they'll target that, and quite honestly, the site doesn't have a chance in the world to rank for that phrase. It's just too competitive. But they'll put all their money and all their eggs in one basket on this one phrase because it's popular. So look at other criteria other than popularity. Popularity is one of many things you look at when you're evaluating keywords. Look at the keyword competition. Be realistic. If you don't think your site can compete on a certain phrase, adjust it. Go to a longer phrase or a related phrase that still is really popular but not as competitive. If you see a bunch of .govs and .edus ranking for a phrase, you might well want to look somewhere else because that's going to make it really hard. Test your keywords. Go out there, if you don't want to do pay-per-click, you can do them on a blog, but do some way of testing how those keywords are working for you. Something else to do, when you're using those keyword tools that I talked about, use them synergistically. All right, say I look at the Google keyword tool and I see a popularity number. I'm not going to stop there. I actually will, if I'm getting down to specific keywords for page, I'll actually go over to the Google Insight tool and I'll look at the seasonality of that as well. Actually, Google has helped you do that, and I should have mentioned this, but in the Google keyword tool, down there where they have the list of phrases, there's actually a little, like a magnifying glass there. And if you click on that, that's a direct link to that phrase entered into the Google Insights tool, so it'll save you a couple steps. So Google is actually encouraging you to synergistically use these different tools. That's nice. The other thing to take away from this session is that the keyword research is never ending. It's an iterative process. It goes on. And you need to make your bosses, your company management aware of that, because valuable keywords are coming into use all the time. So you constantly have to be on the lookout for new phrases. That's why I can encourage you to go out to social media, look at Twitter. There's a number of ways, the Twitter tool, do searches on Twitter, blogs, forums, things like that. Go beyond just the keyword tools when you're doing your keyword research, because a lot of times the keyword tools give you historical information on keywords, whereas some of these other tools, these other methodologies give you now information, real-time information, and that's extremely valuable. So, well, thank you very much. Thanks for watching this session, and if there's a few key points to keep in mind when you're thinking about doing your keyword research, first, think about a keyword phrase, not a single keyword. And then don't take popularity as an end-all criteria on evaluating your keywords. Look at some of the other criteria that we talked about as well. And then finally, look at your keyword competition out there. If there's terms that you're trying to target and you're just not competitively prepared to win on those terms, look at some other phrases. Look at longer tail phrases. Look at other keywords that can give you a lot of traffic and convert really well. And then test your keywords. Before you put a lot of money behind the keywords, test them in pay-per-click and then track those keywords through your analytics and find out for sure if they're actually working for you, if they're bringing the right kind of customers to your site that will actually convert on your site and bring you revenue. And then consider using different keyword tools. Don't put all your eggs in one basket and use one tool. Try to find tools with different data sources. We talked about the Google keyword tool. We talked about some of the paid tools. Try to use a variety of keyword tools to get a more balanced, more holistic view of what the accurate keyword data actually is. And then finally, remember that keyword research never ends. It's an iterative process. It goes on forever and ever, and you should constantly go back and look for new keyword opportunities and new keywords as they come into vogue. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the session.
I did have one question. This has been something that's been on my mind for some time. and it came out again here today as you were showing the live demo of the Google Research tool.
Mm-hmm.
The relevance, they have the relevance bar there, and then you pulled up the cost per click, the estimated cost per click. And there's an enormous disconnect in how competitive they're saying the key phrase is versus the cost at what it's being bid for. So I'm wondering what the difference is, if those things are related, or what the competitive ranking actually represents and stands for.
Yeah, the competitive portion is how many people are actually advertising on that phrase. So if you see almost a solid bar, you can assume that there's a lot of advertisers out there buying that phrase. Now, are they spending money? Well, that's a big question mark. The CPC, that average CPC that they're showing, you got to remember that there's a lot of variables that go into your actually bid price, quality score, click-through rate. There's so many variables where the ad is being placed, your ad rank. So it's almost impossible to say this is how much you're going to be bidding, because there is no right answer. It depends entirely on the advertiser. You know, his historical account information is going to determine, you know, it's going to be a factor in that. There's so many things that go in. I think there's like 200 items that go into the quality score. So coming up with a set number for the CPC, it's impossible. Now, I will say that information is still valuable because it gives you a metric to compare phrases. I don't look at the actual numbers. I don't even look at the actual exact bid prices that they're suggesting. I look at it in relationship to another keyword phrase. Is it more? Is it a lot more? Is that rank order of magnitude the same across the different keyword tools when I'm doing a keyword comparison? That's what you really care about, because you're not going to get the same exact number from any tool because the data source is different. And in that, because Google's kind of assimilating keyword information from different places, again, you're not going to have exact numbers that all match up. But again, look at the order and the trend, and then take that information, look at another keyword tool, and see if you get that same trend.
That competitiveness ranking, though, it is tied to how much the cost per click is, or what it is a competitive in regards to what people are paying for a cost per click, or how much that key phrase is being used as cost per click.
Yeah, Google doesn't reveal all the information and how they're coming up with that. Some of it is based on the cost, but some of it is the number of advertisers too. So.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Hey.
Talk about not over-optimizing keywords. How do you know when you've done too much? I mean, you've got a lot of different areas here that you talk about: the title, the hashtags, the images, etc. How do you know? Is it a gut feeling, or do you have a tool? Is it divine intervention?
Well, I talked about SEO copywriting as being an art form, and Google doesn't reveal what is considered over-optimized, but in the SEO community, there's a very strong feeling that you can overdo it. So you do have to be careful. My gut feel is if I read it out loud and I read it to somebody that's never heard the content before, and if they say, "Oh, that sounds stilted," you have probably overdone it. In the early days of SEO, it was a very mechanical process where you just stuffed keywords in, and it literally was, if you put them in every spot on the page that Google looks at, you'd get pushed up. You know, back then it was Alta Vista, but you know, it would work. Now, because Google looks at on the page, but they also look at off the page, half the algorithm is from external sources other than your website. So you need to consider both. But if it sounds good, you probably are fine. I mean, just read your content out loud.
Okay.
And don't repeat the keyword 50 times in your title or your metas. Yes?
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
So you mentioned how basically bad landing pages and bad keywords can affect your PPC.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things to stay away from when writing writing copy for your ads and making your landing pages so that they're not bad?
They're not bad? Well, my first recommendation was use the keyword phrase that you're targeting. Try to use it in the ad itself. Use it high on the page, on the landing page. And the reason is it's a relevancy thing. If you use that phrase, you're going to get a little bit boost from both the user as well as Google, the quality score. Something else to keep in mind is Google has the Google Website Optimizer tool where you can actually test different copy on the page. If you're concerned about your landing page, this is something we do all the time and I love it. You can test out and you can find out exactly what works, and it lets you change multiple things on on that landing page. So if there's any questions, in fact, it's a good practice. I consider it a PPC best practice to use the Google Website Optimizer and test it out. So it's a free tool. It's really pretty easy. Your webmaster will understand what to do with it. You don't have to be HTML literate, but as long as you have somebody in the loop that can put the JavaScript on the page, you're fine.
Excellent, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Hi there. Mm-hmm.
So I do e-commerce project management, and we design pages for clients with text-based mega menus. So there'll be a drop down, and you talked about today about just not particular one keyword, but a term or phrase. How do you avoid stuffing when you have a mega menu drop down that might have, for example, one client's rifle scopes. So you have the brand rifle scope, but it's a text-based drop down. How do you prevent Google considering stuffing when you're designing that?
Well, you're talking about using the flyout navigation type of thing. Something to keep in mind is the actual structure, the code that you're using. You want to make sure that it's crawler friendly, user friendly.
Yeah.
So assuming that you've done that part right.
Yeah.
The other thing you have to keep in mind is there's been a lot of studies from a usability perspective on those type of flyout tables, and what they have found is there's an extremely high error rate on those. So if you don't have to necessarily put them on there and use them all the time, you might be doing your users a benefit. You might think about using category pages. You probably got them on your pages anyway, but you're putting a lot of links off your homepage, which dilutes your PR and things like that. There's some other reasons why, from an SEO perspective, you may not want to have 15,000 navigational links. But as far as how to not sound stuffed, it's a balancing act. I would suggest you look real long and hard and try to keep that navigation list short, if at all possible. I know it's hard sometimes. Yeah.
I just want to mention we have about 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay. Yes.
Another question. What's more important, speed to launch of content, or find the keywords, build the content around the keywords, and then launch it, even though it might take you 3 extra days to get the right content optimized? So when you launch it the first time, should it be just really good content for the user, or should you wait until you've got it all optimized to get it up there?
So the old question, what's more important? Do I have a web presence that nobody can find? Or should I take the time to do it right? Well, there's 2 theories of thought, and I'm not making fun of you. It really depends. If you're trying to do SEO properly, the best practice is to optimize beforehand. And I mean, even if you can only do a triage process where you do the home page and maybe your 5 main pages, I would recommend you take the time to do that small subset of your site and then do the other pages afterwards. But at least do your home page and the main couple of pages. It doesn't take that long because your page isn't going to really rank. There's not much benefit derived from putting it out prematurely. You're not going to get links. Nobody's going to link to a page like that looks like the title is your product or your company name on every page, and it can actually kind of it's not going to. You can overcome it by optimizing later, but there's some benefits to doing it ahead of time, especially if you're doing press releases and sort of a full-out push on the website. You want it done right because it might have a bad look to it or unprofessional, or if it's not a finished product. So it's kind of hard to say, but I would prefer to at least do your home page and the first main pages.